afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum and other things I'd like to see. More future now than sort of, what I'd like to see in the current game, which most involves fixing the Wehrmacht. But no, what I'd like to see, in a Companies 3 is sort of a more specific, and it's going to be a bit tricky to explain that because when I've tried to talk to someone, they always sort of assume something else, a bit sort of close but not quite there. But basically, a company structure that is you sort of can choose different companies. I'm not talking, like these kind of companies as doctrines. I'm not even talking to like companies online or the old sort of doctrines from Companies 1. I'm talking sort of direct companies, like for example, you choose the German army, a Wehrmacht, for example, and then you could say rather than just, being Wehrmacht, have a few commanders, you then say choose a different company. You could, for example, choose an Ostrom company, in which case all your units here would sort of be based on Ostrom. For example, machine guns were recruited by Ostrom, pioneers would be Ostpioniere, and any sort of elite unit that come out of the light mechanized company, for example, would be like veteran Ostrom, for example. Hardened men who have actually, maybe even served a bit in an actual army before joining the Germans. Even then, of course, they wouldn't say it qualifies other elite troops, but they still be a bit, tougher than the average, Ostrom. Packs would be manned and so on there. And of course, there might be sort of few vehicular changes here and there because, again, they are Ostrom. But again, you'd overall find yourself with a lot more cheaper units, cheaper MD-42s, cheaper Pioneers, maybe slightly more durable in some ways, cheaper elite units, cheaper basic infantry, and so on there. Similarly, for the Russians, you could, for example, choose a Guards company. Your basic men will, of course, be Guards riflemen, Guards engineers, and then, of course, the penal troops might be replaced by something else. Machine guns, mortars, field guns would be manned by Guards with equivalent costs, maybe some different abilities that also reflect it. For example, there might even be some changes to vehicles. For example, they get like M4C Shermans or T-3045s instead. You might even have a slight chance for selecting that. And some of the other vehicles would also be different. So those could be sort of ways to illustrate it. Of course, for the Wehrmacht, you could also say choose, a Stormtrooper company or Panzergrenadier company. And again, you then start out with more sort of better basic infantry. Of course, also more expensive. Your Pioneers would be better, but more expensive. Of course, that would sort of create sort of like slight variations. Then, of course, challenges. And again, you then have sort of vehicular differences. You might get some better armored cars, for example, rather than just the 222. You might get the 234 sort of regular variant. And again, some of the armor might also be different, whereas again, for the Ostrom company, you might get some old stuff, like some French tanks or Panzer IIIs and the likes. You might get lucky, to Panthers, but even then, could even imagine there might be a system of sort of different models. You might only get the older Model D Panther, which is kind of rubbish compared to newer models. Again, Stormtroopers, Panzer Grenadiers might then get the fanciest Model G Panther, where, say, a regular, again, Wehrmacht Grenadier unit might get Panther A's. Again, that could be sort of ways of differentiating between the different forces. And again, it sort of create, sort of sub-factions, if you will, within the game, but also allow people to, perhaps a way of having different playstyles within the armies, but again, still certain armies would overall be more catered towards it, but for example, other armies would then have the chance of actually sort of playing a bit towards it, but again, at certain costs, certain disadvantages. Again, if you want to play, more elite Soviet force, again, you could play Guards, but again, the price would be higher considerably, and of course you'd lose some of the agents of the Soviets in other departments, but you could then do it. And similarly, the Wehrmacht, you sort of want to play, more swarmier playstyle, again, you could go then for that, but again, you then lose out sort of later game, sort of make up for that. So again, that way you could sort of have variations and overall more varied play styles, I suppose. And again, just for some people who just want to play something else, again, there'd be options for it. And again, for the regular forces, again, you can even say, but what about them, say, a regular grenadier company? What do they have here? Maybe sort of just veteran grenadiers. Again, there were veteran troops more experienced. You could just say fusiliers, which again were sort of like that. Reconnaissance troops. There's actually a lot there sort of drawn in actual army organization, even just, sort of just thinking about things a bit there. So I think overall, if they were to pursue that again, you say even in Italy, there could be a lot of fun there to go on. Again, for the Americans, rifle company, motorized, I suppose, and mechanized, rangers, paratroopers. Often in some ways, the Germans could have ended up with the most options because, again, they fielded a lot of many types, though, of course, they could also have its disadvantages in some ways, but at least give them some more options there. And again, British, you could even then sort of bring up some of their colonial force. Like, again, we go for Italy 1943. I think Indian companies, Australian, British, obviously. Polish, actually, I think. You could actually bring in a lot there, surprisingly enough. You can go, I think even British paratroopers there might have served slightly there. Commander, I think, sort of should just be kept. I mean, certain elite units just sort of be kept for, not quite their full unit. Again, stormtroopers might be as well, but even panzer grenadiers would sort of add a bit there, a bit of flair. So again, you could sort of imagine how that could work out. And again, for the Italians, if they do as an army, again, they could sort of do regular Italians, probably not the black shirts, but paratroopers of their own and the likes, Marines. I mean, there's, again, a surprisingly large amount of things that they could work with. And again, while in some ways it would force in most cases, just create sort of more infantry models, at the same time, again, vehicularly, it wouldn't like put a huge strain on them. And again, it would just allow sort of more variation for just a smaller subset of price there, if you will. And again, just allow sort of players sort of try out more varied stuff within a sort of more limited range. Plus, in a sense, it also makes them easier for to add content rather than just go again, well, they've added 2 German armies. What do they do that now? Whereas again, if you just go for subfactions, they can just sort of slowly add more. And hell, they could even then do sort of even more specific ones that are sort of even more like, famous ones, like say, a Panzerlehr Company or Hermann Göring Fallschirm or 1st Armored, Guards Armored, 7th Armored Division, stuff like that, for example. They can even do more unique ones with perhaps in smaller bonuses, but again, also their own weaknesses, because again, they perhaps be even more specifically locked in doctrine. They might just have no doctrinal choices except 1 or 2, stuff like that, for example. Again, just less flexibility, but again, that could be something there as well. So, I mean, from a business side, it actually makes a lot of sense. At the same time, from a player perspective, I think it also just adds more fun. Again, also makes more sense. Because again, it sort of more feels like, structurally there's sort of larger changes. And again, this sort of more works there around just adding a thing that's really big, like, oh, hey, Tiger Ace, or oh, hey, King Tiger, Yak Tiger. You get it. There's not so much just high yield units being added, but again, no trade-offs. And again, trade-offs are much more easy to deal with, because again, Ostrom, all right, you just don't get the really cool stuff at the end. Sorry, mate. I mean, doctrinally, you might be able to call in some stuff, but again, organically, I mean, you're never going to see something really, really good compared to, again, Panzerguns. But again, you're going to find yourself on a lot more tricky edge. I mean, again, you can play more aggressively and so on there, but again, you do suffer from a lot more weaknesses. You do risk bleeding out more faster. But again, you might then get also some really cool stuff at the end. But again, it then takes more risk, more skill, and so on. So again, there's a lot more there to work with, I think. And again, it's really just something I'd like to see, because again, it just adds more fun. I think it would also just be more fun to cast rather than just, Germans versus this. It'd be like Wehrmacht Panzergrenadier Company versus Soviet Guards Company, or, Ostrom Company versus American Paratrooper Company. I mean, it would add a lot more sort of fun to it. Again, might also give players more room to sort of specialize in. Rather just being good at Wehrmacht. Again, they might then be good at, I don't know, an Oberkommandoist Luftwaffe Field Infantry Company or something like that. So, just some thoughts there from me on the whole subject. And again, just something I've always wanted to see. Even back if companies want to really just hope Company 2 would take that direction. Obviously, it didn't. But then there's always the dream they might do so in Company Heroes 3. Because again, I really think it'd just be something that absolutely be suited for Company Heroes. And again, we'll just add so much variety, more choice, but in a more measured and controlled manner, but it's still something that feels meaningful and fun. So yeah, there you go. Just a quick video there on such a subject matter. Again, something I always, wanted to see. It's my own personal little dream. And I'm aware it probably won't ever happen, but that's what dreams are for, just something to have there while you sort of think about things. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this little dream of mine. If you did, let's be sure to tell Relic that yes, you'd also like them to share in this stream and actually make it reality. And of course, if you did, sign off in the comments as well, of course, with your thoughts as well. And of course, like, share, and subscribe. This is Imperial Dane signing off, and see you all another time. Cheers.